Hello, I am Joseph, the moral philosopher. Today we are talking about seasonal depression. Well, that is not so. If you have seasonal depression, maybe you don't know that you do. Um, Maybe you're just like, oh, I feel bad all the time. You don't even realize it. Um, Particularly, seasonal depression affects us in the fall and the winter. And if you're in a more tropical place, it can affect you during rainy season, so like monsoon season and stuff like that. So, then the question is, why is that? What is seasonal depression caused by? I'm going to give you two little theories on this. Okay, one is the cause, why it happens um, practically, and one is what is the mechanism that makes it happen. Okay, so looking at the first thing, and real quick, if you're like, why is this guy talking about this? This is the moral philosophy channel. Everything is a question of morality. Morality, to act moral, you serve life, and to act immoral, you act counter to that. That includes yourself. So that means if you're acting in a way that affects your ability to survive and prosper, then that is an immoral thing. Now, let's look. Okay, let's get to the heart of the subject here. What is the cause of seasonal depression practically? Well, when does it happen? It happens especially in the winter time. Early winter is when it happens a lot if you live in a temperate climate that has winters. Um, what does a bear do? I know that sounds like a tangent, but it's not. What does a bear do in the winter time? In the fall, they eat a bunch, and then they sleep all winter basically. Maybe not the whole winter, but that's basically they eat a bunch and they sleep a lot. Why? Well, because there's less food available. Um, that's going to be a big thing. So they need to conserve. They need to stock up on that ahead of time, and then they need to conserve energy. So people do the same thing. We kind of go into like a hibernation mode essentially. When we are depressed, we tend to eat more, and part of that is there's some, especially with like snack food, junk food, and stuff like that. It's a dopamine thing where it's like, oh well, that'll make me happy in a split second, but it's beyond that. Depression kind of is like a hibernation mode. It is a state where you conserve energy. You're not motivated to do things because doing things would use up that energy. And in wintertime, or in a time when you have access to less resources, using more energy is going to be bad for you. You could starve to death, or you might not have the fat on you to stay warm during that period. So that's another part of it, right? We burn more energy, we have less insulation physically, and so we're going to be colder, we're less likely to survive. So it is going to be advantageous in a time when resources are scarce to have depression to some degree. Now, I'm not saying all depression is caused by that. There's psychological things involved, but as a physical mechanism, this applies. So, with seasonal depression in particular, if you have depression other times, then it doesn't quite apply the same way. We can talk about that in a different video if we need to. But for this video, think of that. Seasonal depression is I'm going to eat more, I'm going to do less to conserve energy. Now, what signals that? So, because we have access to food all the time, don't we? Right? Depending on where you live, like generally, if you're in a prosperous society, you are not actually lacking resources in the wintertime or rainy season, right? What would make your body think that that's a potential? What would evolve to do that? Well, what happens in the rainy season? What happens in the winter time? What do those things have in common? Less sunlight. That's it. What do you get from the sunlight? Well, you get vitamin D, you get circadian rhythm things, right? So your circadian rhythm is based, this is your sleep cycle, it is based off of sunlight. Your vitamin D production is based off of sunlight. So in the winter, you get less sun, you have less vitamin D. Well, guess what? If you are vitamin D deficient, then you're more likely to be depressed and you're more likely to have anxieties as well. So seasonal depression, you can have seasonal anxiety along with that. Well, that's interesting. That kind of answers our question here. If what causes us to have seasonal depression, well, we have less vitamin D, and without vitamin D, we're hormones chemically, we're a little off. I'm a philosopher, not a neuro, I don't know, not a cognitive psychologist, I guess. Not a psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever studies the psychology of the brain. That's not me. I can't tell you the chemical things about this. I'm just telling you what causes and happens on a broader scale. Okay, so what's the point? Can you supplement this? Well, yeah, we have a lot of food, so we don't actually need to eat more and burn less calories because we have resources generally. So if we want to stay productive in the winter and not have seasonal depression, then we need vitamin D. And it's not just, I mentioned, well, we have less sunlight. It's not just that, but you're also more inclined to stay indoors because it's cold outside or it's rainy outside. And so being inside is going to also limit the sun exposure. It's not that you can't get sun exposure in the wintertime. It's that you're going to be, there's less of it. It's less available, right? It's going to be lower in the horizon. It's going to be less direct, less hours during the day. But it's colder outside, so you don't want to be outside. You stay inside. Okay, so you can supplement this. So if one of your problems is vitamin D, one of the things you can do is try not to avoid outside entirely. The neat thing is you don't actually have to have physical sun on your skin in order to get the benefits of sun exposure. Instead, it actually goes through some material, depending on what it is. It goes through your skull, okay? So it's made, if you're in a building with sturdy roofs and stuff, you're probably going to get less of that, right? It's not really getting through that type of material. But like for the circadian rhythm stuff, that actually goes through your skull and affects your, I believe it's your pituitary gland. Again, maybe I'm getting the details wrong on this, but yeah, so like having long sleeves and a coat and being outside in the winter, as long as you're getting that sun exposure, it will actually go through that and you'll still get some of the benefit. Now, it might be lessened, but not to a great degree. It's really the cold, the length of sun in the day, things like that that are affecting you. Now, if you think about this a bit more, you start to see, oh, maybe a lot of depression in general is caused by this, because we don't go, in the modern world, we spend a lot of time indoors, even in the summertime, which means even when the sun is available, we are still not getting sun exposure, which means we are going to more likely end up with depression. Okay, I don't know why I got excited about that. Depression! Probably not something to be excited about. But we should be excited about thinking, oh, I can actually solve some depressive issues, assuming it's a physical, mechanical thing, chemical, not psychological. That's a different story. Again, we could talk about that in a different video. That's not really what seasonal depression typically is. Now, there could be some of that related to like loneliness. So so then you can get a little bit of a psychological depression if you are spending less time with people because you're staying in more. Then that could affect loneliness, and that could cause the psychological side of depression. But if you've got people in the house with you, you're trapped with in the wintertime, right? Then it's not going to be, if you got a big family, it's not such a big deal. But if you're a single person who lives by yourself and don't really go out as often, then you're more likely to have problems like that. And like I said, rain and weather and winter can affect those things. So what can we do about it? Well, get sunlight. Okay, so do that. Earlier in the morning is better because then this affects your sleep cycle, which probably deserves its own video. But that when you are first exposed to that sun, it is triggering melatonin and basically all your sleep chemicals, and then they build up through the day, and then towards the end of the day you're tired. So if you're not getting good sleep, this can also affect anxiety and depression, and not getting sun exposure earlier in the day can affect that. So then you're more likely to stay up later. Then you're gonna sleep. You're gonna sleep later into the day. Then you're gonna get sunlight later in the day, which means the chemicals that are inciting you to sleep are going to happen later in the day, and it's kind of a cycle that keeps going. And it's a problem I used to have quite a bit. One quick way to fix a sleep schedule like that is early morning sun exposure. It goes a long way to start resetting a circadian rhythm. Now, if we don't have that, let's say, the question is, can we supplement that somehow? Yes, some people. You can take vitamin D supplements if you are not getting enough sun. That will help. It also affects immune system. So if you're not getting sun exposure, that also weakens your immune system. Guess what? Seasonal depression and cold and flu season are at basically the same time. It's the same reason, right? So that lack of vitamin D weakens your immune system. So it's not that the germs all of a sudden decide, oh, it's wintertime, let's get going and let's get active. No, they're there all the time. It's just that your immune system is going to be weaker because of the less vitamin D, and potentially less sleep too, if the less vitamin D affects your sleep. So that all compounds on each other. So what can you do? Get sunlight in the morning. Get sunlight. I don't know how much you actually need. That is something maybe I should know. I don't know what that is, and it might be different for different people. Okay. With that said, you can supplement it. Not everybody will digest and absorb the supplement the same way they would actual sunlight. So sun's going to be number one for getting it. Food is going to be like number two, your best way to get it. And then three is going to be actual supplements. But typically that's going to be kind of the order. So you need some vitamin D in your diet. I'm not a nutrition expert, so you can kind of look for yourself what that is. And then, so sunlight, food with vitamin D, and the supplement is kind of if you're still not getting enough. Let's make one extra point here. Something else I found. Okay. When I was looking into this. Interestingly enough, I found that, especially in America, if you're a Black American, you are more likely to have depression. I wonder why. Well, there's the historical and there's the psychological aspects, and there are things psychologically that can affect that. But that's kind of culture, and that isn't going to affect every Black person the same way, because there are different. It's not uniform. Not every Black person is going to have the same. They don't live in the same environment necessarily. They don't have the same culture exactly. To a large degree, there is some of that, but what it is that if you have more, did I say melatonin when I meant melanin? Melanin's the skin thing. Melatonin's the brain thing. Yeah, look, I'm not a chemical guy. Anyways, you have darker skin. That is because too much sun exposure is also bad for you, right? So if you are more evolved for a tropical environment where there's more sun, then you're like, oh, this is too much. So you're going to have darker skin to protect yourself from that. So if you are dark skinned and then live in a northern environment where you're getting less sunlight and you're already going to get less from the sun because of the skin color, right? Your skin is essentially blocking some of that benefit from the sun. You're going to get more of that depression. So, yeah, if you have darker skin, there is a small percentage. It's not like a huge. It doesn't affect everybody the same way. But if you are darker skinned, you are more likely to have more of that seasonal depression because you get less sunlight than somebody super pale, like I don't know, somebody from Ireland or something like that. They're not going to have they're not going to be affected as bad if they're getting sun exposure in general, right? They absorb more of that. So does that mean, I don't know, you should live somewhere appropriate? No, like you can supplement that with food and supplements. But if that's not doing it for you, yeah, maybe think about that. You're like, hey, maybe I would feel better in a different environment, right? A lot of people move to warmer climates and they feel better about it. And most of the world's population is in a warmer climate, right? It's actually less people in the world who are lighter skinned adapted more for a northern climate, adapted a little bit better, right? They're going to get more out of the sun. All right, so get sun exposure, but not too much, because that's a whole other group of problems, right? You can get it from certain foods, and then you can supplement it. Like I said, though, not everybody digests that the same way, and I don't know if there's any like ethnic group or racial group or anything like that that does better with that. Because like with some food, depending on your genetics, you process some foods better or worse. If you're white, you're more if you're not white, you're more likely to be lactose intolerant, just because of that's just you. You didn't need it as much, right? You had different sources. Like if you lived in the north and it's cold all the time, and there's less food growing because it's right. If you're tropical, you can grow food all year round. But if you're living in the north, you have less of that. So what can you supplement your food with? Well, then you end up with like farming and stuff like that. You get cows, you get milk, you start making dairy products, right? That need isn't as abundant in a warmer climate. So white people who were in areas where they had less year-round access to resources, supplemented their food resources with cattle and dairy and stuff like that. So my point there is, tying this back to the sun exposure thing, there could be correlations between your ability to digest certain things, including vitamin D, based on ancestry. So I don't know the details on that, but that is something else that you could consider. So sun exposure, food, supplement if you can't get that, if that works for you. And like I guess the last resort is just live someplace where you get the right amount of sun for you, right? If you're super pale Irish person, moving to the equator probably isn't going to go well for you. And it could be, opposite. If you're super dark skinned and you move super far north where there's not a lot of sun, then you're not going to get enough sun. So, you can kind of figure that out and try to supplement to fix that. There's sunblock and there's supplements. You can adapt. But, if those things aren't working for you, those are other things to consider. It's not just what you have access to, but the environment you're in can affect things like depression. So, if you have seasonal depression, I hope this idea helps, right? So if you're feeling it, you're like, man, I've been a little bit more on edge, a little bit more stressed, a little bit more anxious, a little down, not motivated to do anything. So again, it's anxiety and depression. They kind of go together. If you're feeling that way, this is something to consider is, hey, maybe, because Sorry, my ADHD brain, I don't know if that's what I have. My brain jumps all over the place. Okay, but my point here is, it's gone. Train's gone. Train is off the rails. I don't know. If you do suffer from seasonal issues like that, then this is something you can consider that might help you solve those issues. So I hope that helps. I will see you in the next video. I'm Joseph, the Moral Philosopher. These were my ramblings. If you are stuck around, hit the like button, subscribe. I'm going to do more videos about things and stuff, moral philosophy in general. I guess tying this whole video kind of tied to moral philosophy in taking care of yourself is a moral good thing to do. So here's some helpful tips to maybe help you solve some problems you might be having. Like, I'll see you in the next video, but I won't. You'll see me and I won't see you. That's how videos work. Bye.